Welcome back to Taco Bowler Gaming. I am still Taco Bowler, and we are going to continue our tutorial series today. We've looked at all of these tabs that are overly important, but there are a couple of more things to be looking at. Today we're going to look at buildings. There's a couple of ways to get to buildings. The first would be when you have enough money, you might get this pop-up right here that I can build province improvements. I can build buildings. That would take me to the screen. The other way would be to go to the production interface of the macro builder and go down here to buildings, and that would pop up here. The last way would be to go to the province, and then usually it's popping up on its own, but it would be this tab here, and I could click here and also build any building that would qualify for this province. There are multiple types of buildings, and some of them are better than others. Over here on the top left is a marketplace. If you click on the tab, you can see the building, how much it will cost, and its benefit. So for us, we don't have any marketplaces built in this nation yet, and I can build in Sevilla a marketplace that would give me 12.32 trade power. Now, if you notice, Sevilla has already 39.6 trade power, so that would be a significant improvement. I might like to build trade power there. However, it is worth noting that, especially in the early to mid-game, this building will not produce a ton of benefit. It will not produce a ton of return, especially if it's not more than 5 or even that 7 amount of trade power, because if you'll notice, we only make 13.3 ducats per month in Sevilla with 230 trade power. So if we add 12 or 13 trade power to that, that's really not going to increase. It's maybe a ducat a month. Probably not even a ducat a month. It's a very, very, very low amount. 12.32 is probably enough, but if I'm only adding, say, 3 trade power, then like from a Toledo, I'm adding 3.5 trade power. That's going to be nothing. It's going to give me no benefit. I'm spending 95 ducats to do nothing. Furthermore, in Genoa here, I'm only going to be collecting, 37% of 21 ducats, and so Barcelona, adding very little to that is just not going to affect very much at all either. So really, with these buildings, I typically will build them if it's 5 or more and I have the extra ducats, but definitely not anything lower than that. This is not a ducat per month value. This is a trade power value, and they're not overly worth it unless that number is really high. The next buildings are navy buildings. You have these two. As you can see, there's little arrows. So if I had the next building unlocked for any of these, which I don't, which is very sad, then you could sort by cost, and just simply upgrading would cost half of building a fresh one in the next thing. So when I unlocked Dry Dock, it would cost 285 to build if there was nothing in the province, but it would only cost about 170, 180, or I guess 190 to just upgrade the dock. So that's something you could do there. A dock gives sailors. These are almost always worthless, because sailors, you're very rarely ever in need of sailors. The only time these buildings matter very much is when you're trying to build any amount of significant navy with very little coastline. So in my Bohemia campaign, I had like 4 or 5 provinces, and I wanted to create a significant navy. I went ahead and built some of these navy buildings just to get me a little more sailors, get me a little more force limit. But with Spain, I have so much coastline, this would be a complete and total waste of time. My maximum sailor output is 10,168 already. I gain 85 a month, and I currently use 0. You use sailors as your navy is traveling around, so if I were to actually have my navy doing a mission, which in the base game is the only mission you can do is protect trade, If I sent them out, let's go ahead and send them out, and we'll go a few days in. There is that. Now you can see that I'm using 24 sailors. So with that much coastline, I'm still gaining sailors per month. I don't need that. What this does is it's not saying that I'm not going to gain 225 more sailors per month. My maximum sailors would go up by 225. And then I am getting a certain percentage of that sailors, which is probably which is a very, very small amount, less than 1% of that. So my sailor count for 95 ducats, if I built this building in Palermo for 95 ducats, my sailor amount each month would go up by less than 1. It's really, really not worth it unless you have very, very few coastal provinces and you're not looking to take more by conquest. The next one is a little bit more important, and that is a shipyard. That increases the force limit by a certain amount. So usually a base of 2, and then it can go down. By the way, if you click on this eye, it will sort to the top, the best at the top. And so for 95 ducats, I can get 2 more ships. Oftentimes, especially if you have a very low amount, like right now, my Navy force limit is 147. I have 71 ships, so I don't need that. But if I were flipped around and I had 147 ships out of 71, that might be costing me 10 or 11 ducats per month in being over the force limit, and that would then perhaps make building some, let me get back to buildings, that would make building some docks or shipyards a valid thing to do, because that would actually save me some ducats to get back closer to force limit. Now there are, of course, other ways through ideas and just conquering more of these territories, more coastal territories. Like if I were to just conquer Portugal or conquer more of Morocco here, I could also get force limit that way, and sailors for that matter. You can do that for military as well, for army as well. But that is Navy buildings. Sometimes I build a shipyard. Very rarely I build a dock, but usually I ignore the shipyards. On to Army. You have barracks and training fields. These provide manpower. Again, this is just like sailors. It increases your maximum manpower, of which I get currently about 1% of that manpower. So this building for 95 ducats would get me 10 more manpower per month, which is 120 manpower per year. This one, 8.75 manpower per month, which, you know, is less, but it can be worth it. Typically speaking, if I have the money, this is not the first building I build, but if I have the money, I will build up to 500. So I would build all of these if I had extra money, but I would not build in Syracuse because that's only 477. Typically, I find that to be worth it. It does help you avoid mercenaries in wars. You have more manpower, so you can avoid mercenaries for longer, and that will save you money. Close. And let's go over to regimental camps. Just like the shipyards, regimental camps and conscription centers give you force limit, and it's only 1 instead of 2 as a base. And that's pretty important, especially as you're building your nation. Right now it's not important for me because I have 132 force limit. I'm only using 76, and I can't even afford to use 76 really. But it is. Let's get back to buildings. There. But it can be something that helps if you don't want to take like a quantity ideas or something. You can build buildings to get your force limit up. But just like Navy, conquering more land, using ideas, you can get these buildings. These are not essential buildings, but they are important things. Defense is forts, and it's only forts. So each fort has a fort level. So if we go here to Toledo, no, political map, I have a fort level of 2. If I go to my capital, I have a fort level of 1. The capital city is 1. Usually you want to make sure you have a fort on your capital. So I'm going to just build that right away. Because if you lose your capital, that's a lot of war score, right? So you want to have a fort of the most current level on your capital for sure. And then it would be a fort level of 3. And as you remember from the war, if I try and siege a fort down, I don't know where there is a war going on currently. The Ottomans are at war with Persia. I'm not sure I can see any active sieges going on. There is a way in the ledger to find out who's at war, who's not at war, but... Alright, so Commonwealth is at war with Russia. Fantastic. Let's see if I can find an active siege going on right now. Not sure that I can. Let me quickly just switch over to Russia. That might help me find an active siege by just creating one. There we go. Boom. So if you remember, the fort level is what is here. Fort level provides defense. Each fort level lowers the roll by 1. So a fort level of 2 lowers it by 2. A fort level of 3 on the capital lowers it by 3. If I get up to fort level of 8 or 9, that can really hinder nations' abilities to actually fight a war. I'm going to switch back over to Spain. The rest of our buildings here. So again, with military technology 14, you can get a level 4 fort. Typically speaking, you're going to build the forts where you're going to build them, defensive terrain, choke points, whatnot. So this is really a building where you search by cost. And I would build all these 190s up to level 4 if I had the money. Remember, forts require fort maintenance based on fort level. So, Luxembourg is a level 4 fort. That is costing me 2. I think a level 6 fort costs 4. A level 8 fort costs, beyond there. And then the capital fort costs 0.5. So once that capital fort's done in Toledo, that would increase to 1.5 because it's 2 and then the capital fort of 0.5. It's possible that it's just 1, 2, 3, and 4, but still that can add up very quickly. You can see the forts I have right now is 14.5. If I were to build all of these, that would double. Do I have that? Do I have that kind of money? That's something you have to ask yourself. But you definitely want your capital to be the highest level, and you want at least one of these to be the highest level that you can get at that time, because if I were Spain and I attacked someone who had a level 2 fort, then I would actually get a bonus to my rolls because I have a fort that's of higher quality over here in Luxembourg than the fort I'm attacking. So I would consider that to be an outdated fort and actually would increase my rolls. The next building down here is probably the best building, is a manufactory, or has the potential to be the best building. They cost a lot of money. They cost 475 ducats to build, and they cost a lot of time. So you see 905 days to build a castle, and 1,825 days to build a textile manufactory. But they produce 0.33 ducats per month. Now you can see that this is actually per month increase. And they actually improve a little bit more because they actually would also increase the trade value, the trade power of that province where it is being built, so it increases your trade ever so slightly as well. Typically, though, because of the cost, unless it's really early game, which is before 1600, you're going to want to only build a manufactory if they are over 0.4, but they can get really high. I've seen a manufactory in a highly developed province get up to 1, but usually there's certain trade goods that can get up to 0.4, 0.5, sometimes even 0.6. So if I go down here to ones I can't build yet, you can see 0.43. If I can get to admin tech level 16, I could build this one and it would go. Manufactories are also what is needed for the manufacturing institution in 1650. And so you have to, if you have a province with a manufactory built, that province has a chance, along with any other province in the world that has a manufactory built in 1650 or the next year, if it doesn't spawn in 1650, to get manufactories. And then after it spawns somewhere in the world, every province that has a manufactory starts to develop that institution. So that's really important. Also in manufactories, most nations have build manufactories as a mission in some way, shape, or form. You have to own 20 manufactories somewhere. So that, if you have the money, might be worth building a manufactory that doesn't give you a lot of money if it can complete this mission and give you 1,453.27 ducats and production efficiency, so increasing your trade. I want to say that, yeah, that's like a certain amount of loans, probably 2-3 loans. The next building over here is government, and that is a courthouse, and then it can upgrade to a town hall, and then a university. The courthouse and town hall give you this. It's misleading. What it does is it helps to quickly lower the autonomy. It's very, very rare that this will give you any real return on your investment. Lombardia, right? The biggest thing is state maintenance, which is what that money is, right? Oh, well, if you build this here, it'll lower the state maintenance by 25%, and that will save you 0.05 ducats in Lombardia. It also will lower the monthly autonomy. If you build a courthouse in a province that has high autonomy, like if I built one in Lilia here, and I had just stated it, then that will get me down to 0 autonomy quickly. But once it does, it's not going to do much for me. It's just going to lower the state maintenance, which right now is, of course, nothing. But here, it would lower the state maintenance. I think for the one in the whole state, lowers the state maintenance by that 25%. But still, it really is not that big of a boost. There are times where the courthouse can get up to like 10, 0.10 ducats. Then I consider building them, but really, you almost never build a courthouse. Universities, however, are local development cost and possible number of buildings plus 1, so it is a free building to lower the cost of development in a province. And universities are what is used for the final institution in 1.29, and the second to last institution in 1.30 and beyond, which is Enlightenment. Happens in 1700, and any province, like the manufactories, any province that has a library in it is eligible to spawn Enlightenment, and then after it spawns, those provinces very, very frustratingly slowly start to develop the institution, as well as provide a development, modifier that would allow you to develop the institution on your own if RNG was not on your side. So universities are very nice to build if you have the extra money, which by the time you get to Administrative 17, you pretty much have a little bit of money usually. So that's something that is something you would build as you have a little bit of extra spending money, and it's a nice thing to have. The next ones are helping with taxation and production. So if you remember from the economy video, each province has a tax, each province has a production. And so this is your tax and your production. Right now, it is 0.29 and 0.6. These buildings seek to improve that. They improve local production efficiency by 50%, and they improve it by 40% here. So if you go here, I have the ability to build a workshop. This gives 0.25 ducats per month at a cost of only 95 ducats in Lombardia, 0.818 all the way down. If I have very low production, it gives nothing. These are really, really important buildings to build, and you will be building a lot of them. Usually I build a workshop if it is 0.10 per month or more. Furthermore, if you then develop the province using your diplomatic power, then the already built workshop will help you because production continues to go up. Oh, I don't want to do that. Right-click cancels a building. You get your money back if it's less than, I think, 10% done. Production value will continue to go up. As the trade value goes up, your production value will go up. And as technology gets better and production efficiency gets better, your trade value will go up. And so that building gets better and better and better. Trade by the end game is what drives your economy. Production is the most important buildings to build. Manufactories and production, these are the workshops. These are the two most important buildings to build. And I usually build from 0.10 on. So as we go on in the game, these might go up to 0.10. When they do, I'll build it. But before then, no. The last one is churches. This is the tax modifiers. And again, 0.27, 0.26, 0.23. Right? These are really, really important things. Early game taxes are the economy. They don't go up nearly as well as production does. So you will have fewer of these buildings just randomly go from 0.09 to 0.10. But, you know, you can see a lot of buildings there. If I had all these buildings built, which by 1578 I probably would have if I had been playing from 1444, my economy would be doing so much better than plus 7.09. I'd be at 20 or 30 or 40 ducats per month just from those buildings, even if I didn't build any of the others. The last thing to talk about is upgrades. Should you do this? A marketplace is at plus 50. I can get another plus 50, right, to get to plus 100. I can get another plus 25 to get to plus, or to get to plus 125. Should I upgrade my buildings? The answer is almost always no. This especially, you look at this. The church gives a plus 40 increase. It's only half again as much to increase to a cathedral. You get a missionary strength, fine. But likely you're going to have converted those provinces if you wanted to anyway. And yet it costs 190 to go from a church to a cathedral for only half the benefit. Twice the cost, half the benefit. Usually you don't want to upgrade a building other than a fort. If you want to upgrade a fort, absolutely upgrade a fort. The exception to that rule is if you're doing it for, kind of other reasons. There does come a time if you're building barracks where a province just doesn't have manpower to give. If I have this province, it is a 2 development in manpower, only 477. I can increase that, but it's not going to help me very much, right? It's not. I don't know what province that was. Leon. Leon's going to be way down here at 250, right? So it might behoove me to upgrade Lombardia, which would give me another 1,000, I think. Yeah, which would give me another 1,000 rather than to build a barracks in Leon that would only give me 250. So some of these buildings you might upgrade, the Army and Navy. If you're building those buildings, you might upgrade those, especially the ones for sailors and manpower. This probably not. It's probably cheaper and easier to just build another regimental camp or do an idea or conquer something than it would be to upgrade these. The last thing I wanted to show was the time it takes to build buildings. So, based on the cost, 365 days to build a workshop that only costs 95 gold. The castle that costs 180 gold it's 905 days to finish. And then the textile manufactory, a whopping 6 years, 5 years, something like that. I think 5 years for textile manufactory, that 400 ducat building there. So the time to build is very, very important, and you don't get a return on your investment until it's done. So that's important to remember. But this has been a guide to buildings. I'm going to finish off with my suggestions for order of importance. Early game, church. Mid to late game, workshop. Those two are first. Manufactories, as you're getting 475 gold, if you have the gold, manufactories, but it's going to be a while before any of the manufactories make much sense. Upgrading your forts is important. Building new forts only if you need them, if you can afford them and need them to help defend your lands, but you want to upgrade your forts if possible. I would upgrade the forts you have over building a new fort if you have to make that choice. Okay, so this actually does do the maintenance. Okay, so it is 3 and 4. It does not go exponentially. There you go. And then I would put the importance of trade buildings. Very, very few, but those very, very few that are powerful, 5, 6, 7, 8, and above would help there. And then army buildings, and then lastly, navy and government buildings. If you're just swimming in ducats and don't have anything else to spend them on, with the exception of universities. When you can get universities and you have a few spare ducats, those do help to have, just so you have a chance to spawn the institution and don't have to develop it in. But that's my guide to buildings. I have been Taco Bowler Gaming. I hope you have enjoyed. On your left, you should see a YouTube video that YouTube suggests for you. On the right is my tutorial playlist. And in the middle, you have a button to subscribe. If you did like today's video, please like, comment below, and subscribe. I'll see you next time.